Today it's time to check in on all the progress I've been making. It's a layout update.
Hi everyone, I'm Martin and welcome back to Donnington Castle Model Railway. And today's episode is another layout update. Now, the last layout update back in May seems like a very long time ago. And I think the main reason for that is that over the summer, I've been working on developing an immersive learning experience, a week-long experience that's going to be delivered at the end of September 2024. So normally I would not be in the garage a great deal over the summer. But ironically, having a big project like that has actually meant I've been in here quite a bit. And the reason is that there's been a lot of laser cutting involved in that project. And so I've been in here effectively supervising the laser cutter. So you might have thought that being in here most of the summer would have meant the layout would have come on leaps and bounds. Unfortunately, most of my effort and thought processes have been on the work project. So despite being in here a lot, it's meant that I've not really been able to focus on anything, particularly things like track laying, which I find actually I need to really focus on to get right. So what I've ended up doing is, while the laser cutter's been running, I've been doing little bits of kind of tidying up, little bits of scenery and things like that. Now, if you've not seen the videos I put out over the summer, then there are some parts of the layout that you will see have come on quite a long way. But I've really done those in little short bursts. So I think now the event is out of the way, I'm really looking to get focused on the track laying and to move a few things on. But what exactly I've got in mind for the next phase, you will see as I walk you around the layout. Starting out with the southern main lines, there's really no work gone on here at all since the last update. The only thing is to replace the broken fence in there that you can see. Moving round on the culvert, you can see where previously there were two planks across there. I've taken pity on the people who've got to walk over there, and I put something a bit more substantial in. This isn't fixed in place at the moment. I'll pop the design in light burn up on the screen for you in a second, but it's very simple. It's a frame, like a zigzag frame, and then planks stuck on the top, and then just a handrail. So really quite simple. I'm going to go back and revisit the water in the culvert at some point, so I'm not going to stick that down and bed that in quite yet. Then working our way around, I've still not had a chance to test the signals yet. That's why the base is still showing. Those of you who will have seen me making the speed limit signs can see that one of those is in place. And I have not yet had a chance to do point rodding and signal cables, hence why there's still a gap in the ballast there. That is definitely on my to-do list. Then probably a really obvious thing to say, but with laser cutting, once you've designed something, it's then really easy to reproduce that. So this is either a tool shed or a lamp hut from Lambourne, which I designed for the Lambourne layout. But I thought, seeing as this heritage line is kind of roughly based on the Lambourne Valley Railway, that it's a perfect thing to make another copy of and to pop into this little space here. I'll pop up on screen a picture of what the real thing looked like for you so you can see. Then moving round, I will move over just so you can see. So thank you for all the suggestions on the last layout update. I've taken some of your ideas, and this is now going to be some planking that's going to cover effectively where the point rodding and cables go into the signal box. So that's again just been, it's a very simple frame with some planks all cut in 1.6mm balsa wood, I think, but all cut on the laser cutter. That will obviously need bedding in a little bit more. Now you will see in the background the retaining wall. Thank you again for all your suggestions on this one. I think I've got a plan. I just need to go and figure it out. This wall is going to continue a bit
with the idea being that the folks from this signal box would get the train to work, and therefore we're going to add a little path from the station to the box, and that we're then going to continue along here with some arches, and then a little bit further down we'll then aim to have a standard size arch, but with a couple of arches within it, one of which being a foot tunnel, which in theory would provide access into the yard and things here. So that's what I'm aiming for. Once I've got something mocked up, we'll come back to that. And now I've just shuffled Anson out of the way. You can see Speen Station. I covered this in a video recently. I'm still looking at blending this into the landscape a little bit better. Speen Station did have grass growing up the platform, so I have decided to add some grass that's creeping its way up on both ends, just to make that another little in this space here. I'm looking to have a water tower. Now, the one that Dapol make is exactly the same as the one at Lambourne, so that's maybe one option to go in there, but I will have a look at some different options. Since I made the video on the station, all the platforms been fixed down, and this hut has not been stuck down yet, but as you can see, I've put some cables in there, so when we come to lighting, we can sort that out very easily. And you'll notice that fence needs gluing back in place. This hut's now stuck down. Not much else going on in this area. They're not the final figures or the final places for those things. And as I mentioned, I'm going to laser cut my own design GWR benches, I think, to replace those what were Pico ones, I think. So I'll come back to that. Now, moving down, and you'll spot that I've finally finished off the engine shed. This is the lcut Creative double road steam shed. So it's a laser cut kit. I bought this before and I really got into laser cutting. As a kit goes, I found it actually quite easy to make. Only two things of note to me, really. The roof was a little bit of a pain to stick together. And if you look very closely, you can see where the join marks are. And the only other thing was that there was a little bit of warping. You can't really see it very well on these pillars in the middle here. So what I've done is, well, firstly, when you stick the doors on, that straightens it up a little bit. What I've also done, and I'll take the roof off to show you this. Oh, well, the whole thing's going to come. The whole thing's going to come. So the roof is, in theory, removable. You'll see down there just a little block. There's one at the other end, and I've put those in place just so those keep that that pillar straight, which was needed because of the warping. Now it's been sat there a little while. That has straightened out a little bit more. And as I say, putting the doors on has helped. This area in here will get fixed up once the retaining walls made it down there, so that can get blended in. And then we need some buffer stops on the end there. I do have some of those old Pico coal bunker sleeper style ones, so I will maybe use those. Then river scene and viaduct you will have seen in previous videos, so I won't talk too much about those. And on the front, the final bit of the fascia's on here. It needs another coat of paint, really, but it looks so much better with that on now. Back scene's missing at the moment while I get in behind. And then those tracks need weathering and ballasting and the third rail putting in, because this is the other end of the southern main line. So for those of you who aren't familiar, this is our heritage line down the front here. This is our line that we can run either DC or DCC, and then the rest of the layout is purely DCC. These lines up top are the western main lines, and these are the southern lines here. So as I say, third rail needs to go in there. It's a little bit of a kind of an awkward gap in here. Not quite sure what to do with this. If you do have any suggestions, then please do let me know. It's a prime place to put line side equipment, maybe a substation or something like that. but if there is anything more interesting I can do, then please do let me know. And then track laying has mostly halted with things being busy over the summer. So that's a run along the front where most of the work has been going on over the summer. What I'll do now is I'll duck down into the middle and give you a tour around the back. We're now in the middle of the layout. So that's what the river scene looks like from this angle. You can see there's still a little bit of kind of blending in and bedding in needed on that, and obviously the water still needs doing. Just one comment on the track work round here. Someone mentioned about the tightness of the curves. Now on the layout, the minimum radius is third, which represents this inner line here. There are also bits of third radius on the heritage line. So it looks a little bit tight in places, but it is actually third radius. And there was a comment about why these main lines aren't running around the outside and the heritage line in the inside, because obviously I've made the curves on both lines tighter by doing it this way with this offset appearance. The answer to that is I just think it makes it more interesting. We've got multi-levels going on. Our main lines are front and center as we look at the layout from the front. And as far as I've got so far, I've been able to maintain that third radius. So to me, that means pretty much everything's going to run around this. And with the super elevation, that lets us get some good running speeds around these as well. So I'm quite happy with that. We'll see how that turns out in the long term. No work at all on the lines at the back, but now we've started over the viaduct. It's just a case of getting it together and running the track around there, and then getting into all the point work and stuff around here. I decided to have two connections between the southern and the western main lines, and the reason for that is really for the future. So when I say there were two connections, that there's really a connection at each end of the station platform. So it's really one place, one geographical place, but two physical track connections. And the reason for that is that if the layout does get extended, then this outer southern line is going to be a long loop round and potentially round to a fiddle yard, meaning that I do really want easy access between all of the lines, and therefore having the ability to take trains from the back line over there and bring them across the southern line and onto the western lines here, and then to do the same down this end as well, to be able to come from either track and get onto any other track, for me is going to make operating a whole lot easier in the future, and that's the real reason for doing that. Okay, so not much else has changed around here, but I will reposition myself slightly and talk you through some things that I'm working on. Right, so looking now across the area that's going to be the station, and hopefully some of the bits and pieces that are in place give you a better sense of what this is going to be like. And don't worry, you haven't missed anything. I haven't been off and built a whole series of buildings. These are models of Newbury Station that were built by a member of our local club for a home layout. That layout no longer exists, so they've been donated to the club, and I am borrowing them because they are perfect just to put on the layout, just to see how some of these buildings are going to need to be when I get to that point. So let me talk you through all of this. So we'll start down the front. So this is the heritage line. So this is where it comes from around the front of the layout. It's going to be a platform either side of these two lines. You can see the temporary structure in here. And then on this side, there will be, again, platform. Both sides will use my homemade laser cut platforms or platform system, I guess, if I was being fancy. And I can make that any size I want, which is quite handy. And the idea will be that there will be then a station building on this side, I've decided, with the kind of the grand front, as it were, facing out this way. What that means is I'm going to need to probably extend these boards out ever so slightly, just to give us a little bit of platform space in there. Now, the building here is pretty much a scale replica of the building on the downside of Newbury Station. I will put on screen now a picture from Google Maps of what that looks like today. Here we are on Google Maps. This is Newbury Station, and this building that's marked as M Taxi Newbury is the one that we're interested in. So let's just drop our little person in and have a look, and hopefully immediately you can see how that model has really captured the essence of this building. We can see all of the stonework, the central door, which has obviously changed over the course of time. And this building down here is the bottom of the staircase. Now, this is obviously post-electrification. You can see the masts in here. Now, I feel like that is a good size station building for the station on the heritage line here. And then there'll be a smaller building, probably a mirror image of Lambourne over on the other side, and then a footbridge between the two. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, when I get a chance, I'm going to take this scale model, and I'm basically going to transcribe this into Lightburn, just like I did with Lambourne, and create effectively a laser cut kit of Newbury Station. I'll then make that up and build that in here. And the good thing is that I can, by doing that, I will be able to tweak the size slightly to fit this. I'm not making a faithful replica of Newbury Station. All I'm looking to do is to copy this very distinctive Great Western style station building, a little bit grander than Lambourne, with a lot more stonework above the windows and things like that. But I think that will look really nice, imposing front to the station. So that's the heritage lines. Now, moving over to the back, this is where our main station is going to be. And I've again started to put some station buildings in just to show what that might look like. Now, this over the other side is the station building. I think it's about 2/3 of the scale length of it from the upside at Newbury Station. Again, this building's pretty much intact. If I flip this round, you will see the detail that went on this. This obviously went against the back wall of the person who made its layout. This is platform side, which has changed a little bit. But that gives me a great template to work off. I'll do the other station buildings first before I come on to this, but this feels like this might be a good size building to have on this side. So again, I'll be able to take a ruler to that, do exactly the same process, and create effectively a laser cut kit of that. And then Newbury Station, for those of you who know it will know that there are 4 through lines, 2 are platformed and 2 aren't, and that's exactly the same configuration that I'm going to have running through here, with the fast lines not going past the platform. So I was thinking about, again, taking some measurements off these very nicely scratch-built examples of the old footbridge at Newbury Station. It was taken out a few years back during electrification, replaced with a new modern structure, but it was very distinctive. And if I just move these around, you can see you went obviously up the stairs and over onto the bridge here, and then down the other side. You kind of went down the stairs and around the corner. So I might play around with the orientation of that a little bit. But I've got a great prototype here, from Newbury Station of the kind of the bridge. I just need to make sure I can make that to the right size to fit over the gap here. But that's the plan for that. But let's see if we can go back in time and see what this was like. So it looks like the earliest we can go back to here is September 2009. And you can see how things used to look. So we've got no electrification here. And here we are. Here is that overbridge. So this used to be the entrance into the station here, and you can clearly see a very distinctive look to the staircase. And if we whiz past, we can then obviously see that styling on the bridge that you can see was captured in the other model. So there's great news in that we have buildings still present today that we can go look at and use as reference material, as well as that model. So I think we're in a good place to be able to make some really characteristic station buildings and footbridges and things like that to really add something to the station. Where that staircase stands at the moment, that's then going to be a platform that will then back onto the southern side of the station, where there'll be the two southern main lines will run through with platforms there. So that's how all that's going to be laid out. And then out the front of here is where there's then going to be the road, and then down into this car park area, and then maybe the kind of the little, I don't know what the word is, equipment store, and maybe a little scrapyard and things that people have suggested. So that's going to get some work at some point. And then the road here, I did get a very good suggestion of putting a level crossing in down this end as something for the signal box to be taking control over. And I like the idea of then having a road in view that came down and round to kind of meet the front of the station here. I've been having a look at it, and I'm not that happy about the kind of the geometry and how we'd put a level crossing in there. Obviously, we've got the points, and then that's straight into a curve. And then by the time that the lines go parallel, you're quite a long way up. And it feels like you're then removing platform space, which is quite tight anyway. So I'm still kind of pondering that one. The alternative is to put a road bridge over there. Obviously, that doesn't deal with the signal box issues that I talked about in the last video, but that might be another alternative. And then the road will come down here. I think I mentioned this last time. And then we'll kind of head down and into a tunnel. And I'll probably base that on those tunnels around Portman Road in Reading, because they were kind of very basic tunnels, quite long, going under a lot of lines, but yet still carrying road traffic. So, okay, let's move on to the final section then. And again, round here, not much has changed. I did get a comment on the last layout update saying, where's the castle in Donnington Castle? And I realized that I never mentioned that at all in the last video. So let's just spend a moment just thinking about what that's going to look like. So over here in the corner is where that castle is going to be. And I'm going to scratch build a copy of what Donnington Castle looks like today. Now, you can see there are those two piles of discs there. Now Donnington Castle has two round towers at the front of it, which are quite distinctive. So those two piles of discs are just kind of giving you an idea of how that might look. And I don't know if it comes across on camera, but that sits quite low in the landscape, whereas Donnington Castle really dominates the landscape. Obviously, being a castle, that was the whole point. So that shows that area there really needs to be built up. So when the castle sat on top of that, that's in really commanding a good view over the layout, and that will be then a really nice feature. So that's where that will be. Again, for those of you who know Donnington Castle, you'll know that there isn't much of it left, and it's actually kind of more of a facade and kind of the gatehouse. So that should fit very nicely into that gap there. It's not like I'm going to have to build a huge castle with massive walls and things like that. So that should fit very nicely within the scale of things. And then down here, very little done. The tunnel needs to eventually come round. We just need to finish that off, come out of the portal here. And then up that slope, that's where the tracks need to come. And then again, I've not done anything really on track laying. There was some comments about super elevation. I will do a video. It's kind of half made. I say half made, about a quarter made. That talk through the process I use, because I make my own super elevation, and I do more realistic sleeper spacing. So those two things mean that I'll use the super elevation slightly differently than if you were to go buy it commercially and just to kind of put it under track without the webbing cut. So I will talk through all of that. There's a section here where I think I need to just increase that. I flattened it off for the straight section, but when you look at the profile, I think that does need to run round elevated a little bit more there. So I'll go back and revisit that. I copied my track down, so it's really easy to lift and to pop more super elevation under there if needed. And that is about it, I think. Let's say it's been a busy summer where I've been able to do bits of modeling, but not really focus. And therefore, I really do need to focus on track laying, get all that down and tested before I can then start to advance the scenics. I think that will make a big difference to the layout, that when the track is well tested, laying ballast and putting line-side equipment and cable trunking and things like that is going to be a relatively quick job, and will then have had a huge amount of interest around this front section. And again, finishing off that retaining wall. From the back here, you can see how I've had to alter things slightly. I'm going to need to pack that area in there and just tidy that up. I've then got the challenge of figuring out signals around this section, because obviously we don't have much clearance with that wall. So we'll need to look at gantries or signals that are bracketed out off the wall or something like that. But that's a problem for future me to think about, I think. So there we go. It felt like there wasn't much to show you that I hadn't shown on the videos, but once I got into it, actually there was probably more than I was thinking. But I hope that's given you a good sense of where we're at. Priorities, as I said, track laying, when I'm feeling brave enough, resin into the river, retaining wall finished off, and then we can start thinking about getting the station buildings done. And a project like this will be perfect over the winter, because I don't need to be out at the garage to be able to do this. I can take that building to a desk with a ruler and just crack on and get that measured up, and then get that laser cut and built up. And as I say, I'll start with this and the platforms for the heritage line, and then I'll worry about the main station area a bit later. Okay, I think it's probably time for you to watch some trains running.
I hope you enjoyed seeing those running shots. Hopefully that showcases some of the work that I've been doing, particularly on the heritage line over the past few months. Now, as I mentioned, the next focus is really going to be getting started on that main station for the heritage line. So there's going to be a bit of CAD work and a little bit of laser cutting coming with that. And obviously getting some water into the river will be important as well. At the same time, track laying, I don't think I can really procrastinate any longer on that. So that's certainly something I'll be focusing on. So I hope you enjoyed that out update. If you are enjoying the channel and you're not a subscriber, there will be a button coming up shortly. So please do consider doing that. But I will catch you all on another video very soon. Bye-bye.